Welcome to this special, what do we call this episode of the Revenant?
Edition.
Special edition.
The autopsy edition of the Revenant run.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Welcome to the special edition of the Revenant podcast. And I'm joined by a handful of really good guys here. Why don't you go around and introduce yourself, you guys?
Come on.
My name's Sean, and I helped run a little bit of a medical unit, roving around, checking out the race, making sure everybody was safe.
I'm Russ Palmer, race director.
Gabe Erickson, CEO of WTO.
Gavin Erickson, COO of WTO.
Cool. All right, Russ.
Oh, off we go.
Yeah, off we go right away.
First year, short time frame. We put the race together in 90 days. Not a lot of participants, but some strong participants. And man, we had a cyclist come out that kind of shocked us all. And a really good female ultramarathoner, Erin Redlin, had a good performance. And yeah, so for a first year kind of gravel, let's throw this together race, we got a lot of great feedback. And I think we're poised for next year's event that, well, we'll just say the wheels are in motion on that right now. And so we're looking for a larger event, more people. A lot of the same elements that we had this year, as far as a race that has as far as you can go theme. Some of those stories were really great. We'll get into those, I'm guessing, as we chat here, but very not happy with the number of participants. You always want more participants, but very happy with what we learned, how it went, and how people felt about the event. Everybody had a great time. If you can say that after you run 30 miles, right?
Right.
People were just fired up about the course, about what we did, and about the mission. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, despite having a very intimate first gathering, I did not hear a single negative piece of feedback other than, hey, maybe have like set fuel stations every so often. But because of the intimate size, we decided and opted against that and had a roaming support, which everyone said actually was really great. So
I think it was the only way to do it this year.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, for sure.
and it did work out pretty well.
For sure.
I think we're also forgetting about the people across the US that ran it.
Well, that's exactly right. Like we had, I didn't even tally up the full amount of virtual people, but I saw people on Instagram signing up last minute because Carolyn Bryce was on our last episode of the podcast.
Yeah.
And people in her network saw it. We're like, oh my gosh, I'm signing up. So hoping to get a couple of those as guests on our podcast in the future here. But yeah, I mean, we had an Ironman finisher. Demi Knight Clark is another episode of the podcast. She did it virtually as well. So pretty stoked. I mean, it went nationwide. We had people all over the country doing their thing. And a lot of the people had already planned races because we only did this in 90 days.
We did it in 90 days.
So they'd already had plans for the weekend.
Yeah.
So they doubled up and did Revenant virtual, and were thinking about Revenant as they did their event wherever they were. So that was pretty cool. I just wanted to capture the stories too from that. Like what stories do you guys have from the experience? Because I mean, I remember that right when it was done, we just couldn't stop talking about what we had just experienced.
Well, I think for me, Eric was, you know, I've ridden with this guy before in a local group here in Billings called the Bacon Ride. And I knew this guy had some legs and some lungs, but I would put this guy up with anyone in this region. And he came out and crushed this 60-mile course under 4 hours. What were we at? I'm trying to find his time, but 3:36, I'm thinking, something like that. And kind of got done, took a drink of water, did an interview with you. And I'm out checking on the course, and here he is, just kind of taking another lap for fun.
I was going to say, I saw him going back up the biggest hill we had on the course. I'm like, dude, you must be a glutton for punishment. He goes, I guess so.
Do you know he holds the king of the mountain on that at 16-mile-an-hour average up that hill? That's insane.
That's crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah, he was moving.
Yeah. And great feedback from him on kind of what to do, where to do, how to do it. And that was good. Jason Wood had a really good showing.
Yeah.
He's kind of an older guy that I've ridden with a lot, but great feedback from him. And, you know, people like Brenda Rose, who just came out and rode the course. And, yeah, I love seeing the people that are my age and older.
That's why we set you farthest back from the camera.
Yeah,
so
that's
people
right.
can't
That's
really
right.
tell.
Yeah, for those of you older folks out there, if you're like me, you wonder why all the old people are our age. And but man, she just stayed with it, finished the course. That was an awesome story. And you know, I don't want to forget Erin Redlin, female ultra marathoner. She's a veteran of the Rut, the Bighorn, and she was just happy that there was an ultra in this area, and really encouraged us to build on that, and really appreciated, you know, people kind of coming out and doing it. Everybody was a little shocked by the mobile support. That usually doesn't happen, but you know,
it worked, man.
It could, yeah.
Yeah, it worked.
yeah.
We had a mother-son team. Do you guys want to talk about that at all? The
You
whole
talk about it.
Yeah, so the whole premise this year was just go as far as you can. Start it and then go as far as you can. And we briefed that again pre-run. And we had a mom that was just there because her son was cycling. Right. She just showed up. She's like, I just feel like I'll just go as far as I can because he's cycling. Well, then I told her, like, I'll come pick you up wherever you want to stop. And she's like, no, I'm just going to turn around at like 6.5 miles. And we get a call. She's at the 12-mile marker. Hey, come pick me up.
And you found her past that.
I found her at the 13-mile mark. Yeah.
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 Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, I think we just kind of branded this day. We have an undefined run, right? Revenant Undefined, which means, and we're going to do this next year because the stories out of this were really cool. You tow up to the line and you go.
As far as you can.
Far as you can.
Point of failure.
far as you can.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. I wish I could remember the young guy's name, and I feel horrible that I can't, but here's this kid. He's got his headphones on and
Big as these ones.
as big as these,
Yeah.
no water. He's not self-supported at all. I think I called you and I said, hey, keep an eye on this kid because he's got nothing. 22 miles.
Yeah.
22 miles. He just plodded along that long ass gravel road. And the gravel this year, Yellowstone County helped us out and added a layer of gravel on it. So it was crunchy.
That was new gravel.
Yeah. And 22 miles. And it was it was cool to see. Now, I don't know the story behind this, but coming together with some health issues and trying to get there. And they were so, and just, I think you were standing there with me when, you know, and we're like, wow. But yeah, it was a cool deal.
I talked to him actually.
Did you?
Out on the route. Yeah, I talked to him and he had never done, that was the furthest he'd ever ran.
Yeah.
Yep. And he told me he runs for like, that's his peace of mind. So he'll just leave the house and just run.
Yeah.
And he hit the 17-mile mark and he was like, this is the farthest I've ever.
And he went 5 more after that.
He went 5 more after that. He didn't ask for water until like the 13-mile mark. And I was driving around offering people water.
I gave him water coming up. He was still on Duck Creek on the pavement part.
Okay.
And I just kind of waved it at him, and he took a power bar and a water, and yeah. But you know, once you hit that point and you haven't hydrated or fueled, you're pretty much done.
Yeah.
You're pretty much done. And I think that's what he hit. But listen to the point. He learned something about his own capabilities, kind of what he needs to do to fuel and be ready to run again. And it's fantastic.
Yeah, it was awesome watching him.
I love the format because he wouldn't have been able to discover that about himself if there had been a finish line at 16 miles or 17. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right.
13.1.
Yeah.
He would have just hit 13.1 and been like, I've done that before.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
well, another half marathon in the books.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that as well.
There was an older guy out there that I picked him up at mile 14, but I showed up and he kind of flagged me down and he's like, oh, I started cramping. I was like, okay, well, what do you want to do? He said, I want to get in the van. I was like, are you happy with your run? He's like, yeah, man, I just came out here to run. So that whole like undefined It just happened to be like the theme of the actual run.
Well, James Whitworth, that's who you picked up.
Oh yeah, James.
He's a doctor here in town and a notorious runner. He came and ran the Warrior Run every year. I see him out running all the time.
Yeah.
And James is, golly, I think he's 70.
Yeah.
And just loves to run. And the fact that he can continue running for as long as he has, but I have never seen a guy run with so much joy.
Oh yeah, he had a smile on his face the whole time.
He just absolutely loved it. Yeah.
He was having.
Hey, why don't you silence that phone? I don't know if you know we're a podcast.
Yeah, I see that
recording right now.
Sorry.
So.
James was having full.
These are ideas coming to my head.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry. Let's get. But James was having full conversations with Mike. Mike was like struggling going up that big hill, and James kind of tagged up with him, and they were kind of talking the whole way up the hill and stuff. But yeah, you're right. He had a smile on his face the whole time.
He just loves it, and he loves the community. Yeah. Mike, wow.
Yeah.
That guy was all business, all 30 miles.
Mike, next time bring sunscreen.
Was this Mike with the big calves? Is that what we're talking about?
All legs, Mike.
Yeah, all legs.
Oh, I'm thinking who's the guy you guys ran in with?
Steve.
Yeah,
that's a story in of itself. But
yeah, that's another story.
Mike is all legs. Mike, is that where?
Oh, Mike is all legs.
He was all legs and he was all smiles too.
Aaron passed him, and I tried talking a little smack to Mike. I was like, "Hey, Mike, she said she was going to pass you," and he goes, "She should pass me. She's like 120 pounds soaking wet." He said, "Can you imagine her body on my legs?"
No,
she'd be running still.
I caught up with her just about Fritz climb, gave her a water, and she goes, "How far back are those two guys?"
She's competitive.
And I said, well, he was cramping up a little bit. Looks like they got him taken care of. He's feeling good and he's starting to run again. I don't know. I think he's about a 3/4 half mile behind you. He's a mile and a half back. She's like, "Oh, this ain't happening."
She turned it up. Yeah, she was all business the whole time.
She is all business.
Yeah.
She is all business. She's that kind of person. Erin has been a friend of mine for a long time, and well, she's my realtor as well. So yeah, she's all business. She gets stuff done. Single mom, 2 kids, just that mentality.
Every excuse not to be out there.
Oh, listen, if there's a woman that could make excuses to not do what she does, it's her, but that's just not in her makeup. And her kids either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we talk about like some of the medical stuff that was going on? Because we had several people, because it was hot. It was
a warm day. Yeah.
Early in the day, it was cool.
Yeah.
And then it immediately got hot.
Yeah.
And we had some people come in like really touting our medical support.
Yeah. We had a couple guys. We had you. We had John. He is a retired Navy corpsman. So that was kind of fun. And you guys just kind of handle it. What'd you see out there?
Yeah. So I went with John for a little bit. We did roving support, and it was just like getting it before it happened. We ran into Mike. He had some cramps. He was probably at like mile 13, 14, and he was like cramping up already. So it's like half of the run, right? So we drove back into town. We grabbed him some pickle juice.
No.
Tell the story.
Tell the story.
Yeah, because you called me and said, "Hey, do you have pickle juice and mustard?"
Yeah. So
I'm like, how the heck do you think I have pickle juice or mustard right now?
And then tell us how you bullied somebody into getting pickle juice.
Well, it was good. So we stopped at the store because nobody had any pickle juice. Nobody had any mustard, obviously.
next year, bring
right. So, and that was a thing that I thought about because I have been on some runs and it helps immensely. Like cramps will stop you. It'll ruin your day.
Yeah.
It'll end everything. So
hold on. I think just putting pickle juice and mustard in your mouth halfway through an ultra has got to suck worse than the cramps.
No. Have you've had cramps? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
So
I've also had pickle juice and mustard.
It's not great, but you get that in you, and that acid just eats them within minutes.
Really?
And you're back on it. And he had some good cramps, and he could not run. And as soon as we stopped at that store down on the
end of Wise Lane there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the lady went in the back and she actually stole pickle juice from her pickles. We didn't have to. We bought him a bag of pickles, but it didn't have enough juice in it. So she gave us a whole cup full, took it to him, and he downed it with like 4 packets of mustard. he felt better, and he said, well, I'm thinking about running. His body wouldn't let him run, but he ended up finishing, no cramps, got back into shape, and yeah, he finished out the race.
That's
Listen,
strong.
uh,
That's halfway through the race.
he pretty
That's
much
crazy.
rolled off the couch and did this.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. I mean, he's fit and he runs, but he was not training for an ultra.
No.
Really.
What other stories you got?
Because
Because
he trains for everything. Those, like you said, his legs are huge.
Yeah. Well, according to Sarah, who is our volunteer coordinator, that's his wife. He just like gets up in the morning and leaves. So
That's that veteran mindset, though.
Yeah.
A lot of the people that came to this run were veterans.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's that veteran mindset. He just got off the couch and said, I'm going to do it. And he did it.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't have been able to do it if he wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, it's
Where
it's
did
such
you
a sweet
so
program.
I was coming by just doing a course check, and I see you and John, and I'm like, you're handing him some juice, and it took me a second. I went, that's freaking pickle juice. That's what
he didn't even flinch. He grabbed the cup because we were
Just
like,
down.
we were just gonna give him some pickles and a couple mustard packets, and the lady had given us a cup, like a
Yeah.
large cup of pickle juice
Yeah.
with like some floating pickles in it. He grabbed it and he goes, I hope this works. And I go, it'll work, man. Don't worry about it. And he was
Slammed
super
it.
stoked.
Did
yeah.
he
Yeah, he's
suck down the
all
packets?
the packets. And,
Oh, man.
and swallowed
That's
it down
not
with some pickle juice.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So I actually picked up that trick.
There's some
when I
ultra
was-
there's some ultra guys out there like, I never thought of this.
Yeah. Yeah. So I used to run in California. I would run some Reebok races, and I was bent over on the side of the course one day, and this guy ran by and he goes, you got cramps? And I go, yeah, I got cramps. And he goes, mustard packets. I was like, no way. He goes, I promise it'll work. And I only ate one. And then it cleared it up. And from that day forth, I carried mustard in my bag as every time I ran
That's
anything.
Crazy.
And I would actually eat them like every 2 miles. Never got cramps.
To be proactive about it.
Correct.
wow.
Because you're using
Dude,
so
you
many
just blew
electrolytes.
some people's minds
You're,
right now.
you're using so many electrolytes when you're sweating, especially when it starts to get hot.
Yeah.
You're just burning through them. And so just replacing them a little bit. It
Crazy.
helped out greatly.
Wow.
It's crazy. Everybody always gives me that raised eyebrow, and they're like, I'm not eating mustard.
Oh yeah.
Eat some mustard.
Yeah.
Eat some
Well,
pickles.
listen, I've had cramps like that, and yeah,
Yeah.
at that point you'll eat about anything.
Yep.
I think
Yep.
you'd eat a turd if they said it
Right.
would help.
They said it would take it away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What other stories?
She's so many stories. Do you have more?
I think the biggest thing was just us getting around and making sure that everybody is taken care of. They really appreciated it. We had water available, we had snacks available, we had roving support between every checkpoint, and they were just like, I think they almost had too much. They're like,
Yeah.
you guys, come on, cut it out.
Yeah.
It was, they would a little bit more challenge if we weren't there, but I think it turned out
In the
really well.
beginning, I think they were thinking like this is too much
Right.
support. But towards the end, they were like, hey, do you have this?
Yeah.
Do you have
Yeah.
this? I need sunscreen. Like they were
Yeah.
asking for everything. So
Sure.
Yeah. Everyone was asking for sunscreen.
everyone bring sunscreen.
I didn't even think about sunscreen.
I
to be
had
honest.
sunscreen. Nobody called me.
Yeah, I got a couple requests. I was like, some hand lotion.
Yeah. Luckily I brought, because I burn. I don't
Mhm.
tan at all. So I
Sure.
brought sunscreen for myself driving. So like my arm is gonna get burnt
Right.
driving this. But so luckily I had some, but
And listen, it was even a fairly, we had kind of partly cloud, so it wasn't like a bluebird
Scorch.
blue scorcher day out there. I think,
it was beautiful though. It could not have been better.
It didn't get hot until what, 2?
Yeah.
till 2.
Then it was like boom, hot. But
Yeah,
up
yeah.
until then, it was
it
a nice day.
the man. Can we talk about the views on this course?
Oh my gosh.
Jeez. I stopped driving just to look at the views sometimes.
Yeah.
So we're at harvest time, wheat harvest, and the wheat crop this year is phenomenal.
Yep.
Being the farm and ranch boy, I appreciate that. And as a matter of fact, when we were setting the course, a couple of combines were coming down there. Let me tell you what,
Massive.
the combines you don't pull over, you get off the road.
Yeah.
Because they
They're
take up the whole road, fence to fence, and down they come. But as we're heading over to Prince Hill and starting doing that, you're looking out over that valley and just the wheat fields out there and the green of the hay fields out there that have just been that have just been hayed, and the mountains in the background. I'm telling you what, there are lots of great mountain courses out there, particularly, you get down in Colorado, places like the Rut here in Montana, they're beautiful and the mountains are gorgeous. And I think people overlook the beauty of this part of the country where the mountains hit the Front Range, and you just get that almost a mosaic of the mountains in the background with this beautiful valley punctuated by a river running through the middle of it. It was stunningly beautiful.
I mean, the fact that you could see all 3 mountain ranges out there, it felt like you were just in a painting.
It did.
It had that gold glow off that wheat, and it was just beautiful.
Yeah.
One of the runners, Steve said he saw, deer, a fox.
I saw tons of them.
An elk, even.
Elk, yeah.
So the wildlife in that setting as well. And there's all these draws too, so you don't even know they're there until you like turn a corner, and then there's a draw, and there's 8 deer down there.
It's different too to be running
you.
next to a field of deer than driving. You just drive by, you're like, oh, there's deer. But when you're running and the deer are all just sitting there staring at you, like, what's this idiot?
I didn't know they did that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's just different because here in Montana, they're as big as you are. So it's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely the truth. So, should we talk a little bit about next year?
Sure. I just want to make sure too we get all the stories out there.
I do want to. The first ever finisher we had, right? So the reason that we're doing this run, right? It's awesome. It's a run. But the reason we're doing the run is because, at Warrior Transition Outdoors, we're supporting veterans in transition out of service, right? And the first ever finisher of this run is going to be big in the coming years. But the first ever finisher was a World War II and Korea vet. And he couldn't come to the run, but he walked a mile at 96 years old with his daughter and was the first ever finisher.
And they were the first finishers together too, which is what the family component is so big to us. And I texted her afterward and said, you guys are the first finisher of this. In 40 years, you'll always have been the first finisher of this, which is pretty special. Yeah.
There's not a lot of World War II veterans left. So to have
there are not.
No. So I thought that was pretty special.
We're getting fewer and fewer Vietnam vets.
Yeah.
And then of course there's lots of stories that go around veteran suicide and all that kind of stuff that we won't cover that today, but
James is a Vietnam vet.
Yeah. Tell his story. I think it's an important story.
He got drafted.
Yeah, but you guys kind of found him.
No, are you talking about Steve?
Or Steve? Yeah, Steve.
Yeah. Do you want to tell? You should tell Steve. Dude.
I was just thinking about Steve. Like, we can't move on and end this thing without talking about Steve. Right. We met Steve. What's he, Navy chief?
Yeah.
That's his title. He was 24 years in the Navy.
Yeah.
And he came to us. I remember he sent me a message on LinkedIn and was like, "Hey man, can we grab coffee sometime?" I'm like, "Sure." I have no idea who this is. Had heard about him from another nonprofit in town. And so we sat down with him over coffee, and he basically said to us, like, I go to work and then I go home and I stay at home. I don't do anything.
He said, I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to see anyone. I just feel like I want to be a hermit. But he said, that's not what I want for my life.
Yeah. His dad had recently passed away, which was a really close relationship for him. And he was tired of people just not getting it. Like, understanding him as a veteran, I guess, was probably, and being in the civilian world to him, like, people just didn't get it. And so I was like, I'd rather just not even be in that. And he basically self-proclaimed shut in for the most part, besides work. And out of shape. He's like, I don't remember what he said. He's like, I couldn't even run like a mile right now. Is that what he kind of said?
Because we talked to him about the Revenant, and he was like, I couldn't run a mile.
Yeah, he's like, I couldn't even run a mile right now. We're like, dude, well, listen, we want you to be involved in our family for Warrior Transition Outdoors. But just something in our hearts was like, you need to sign up for Revenant. I think he was the first, maybe second one to sign up.
Yeah.
I think he was the first.
It was pretty early on.
He prepared for that in 90 days.
Dude, he ran over 600 miles
645 miles.
and
That was
lost
training.
30 something pounds
In 90
in
days.
90 days.
When I saw him, I didn't even recognize him right away. I saw some guy with blue on and it was like, oh, okay, another runner. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's Steve. Like I didn't even recognize him.
We asked him like, what, what did you do? And he was sending us updates like leading up to the run, screenshots of his runs. We're like, holy crap. And it was marathon after marathon after marathon. And I think he did 2 back-to-back marathons.
All I remember is on Facebook seeing his post saying like, I just ran a marathon
After running a marathon.
Did he?
He ran 2 marathons. I think
Yeah.
it was like a day after themselves.
Yeah, that post was like pretty powerful. He was like, I have no doubts about Revenant coming up next weekend.
This is a guy, right? Like when we met him, stoic, just like the typical Montana rancher, just stoic. I'm just gonna work, get it done, call it a day. But surprisingly vulnerable with Gabe and I when we talked to him. And then, well, I did not expect him to be vulnerable over social media, but he was posting his journey on social media, and then you could see all the people in his life supporting him there.
Yeah.
And then he showed up and just he cried. I mean, it took him a while, but he did it. He finished, and it sprinted the last 100 yards. I thought he was dead. He looked dead.
Yeah.
And then he sprinted the last.
Telling you
100
what,
yards.
I drove by the guy 4 times trying to give him water, and it was just like, don't fricking bother me.
Yeah, he meant business.
Yeah, he was dialed in.
He
It was not. It was. I don't know what the demon in that head was, but that's who he was running with. You could just see it. You could just see it. Yeah, and then he's chatty Cathy at the end.
Yeah, I think you could see when he finished that weight lifting.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get goosebumps on that one.
That's dedication, man. I asked him what he did, and he just trained hard. He cut out all this bad crap in his life, the foods he didn't want to be eating anymore. He cut it all out. He just he structured a plan and he followed it, he executed, and he finished.
Yeah,
I'm proud of him.
Oh, it was an inspiration, truly, like, because we kind of like leapfrogged him for the last couple miles, and then with like a mile left, you could just tell his energy was like, just stop leapfrogging me and get out of my way. Like,
Yeah.
He was moving and he found $1 with like a mile left to go. He stopped and we're like, oh man, is he okay? Reaches down, picks up a buck, puts it in his pocket.
Abundance is everywhere. That's awesome.
He had a post race photo on Facebook where it was like, we gave him one of the signs, we all signed it from WTL for him, right? And so he had all the things from the race and the $1 was on there. So I think to him that's a pretty epic part of his journey.
Yeah.
Listen, I this is how these things start, and I am sure we'll see him next year.
Yeah.
And we're
100%.
talking about posting up 100-mile ultra.
Yeah.
And I'm just, if I was going to bet a buck,
You'd bet that he did.
I'd bet a buck he'll be towing up on the whatever. I think we're talking about a midnight start.
Yeah.
He'll probably tow up for that.
I'm sure he will. That's a long ways to run, man.
Ooh, that's a long ways to run.
There was a lot of good people there, though. Volunteers wise, I mean, we had amazing volunteers. That's one of the things everyone said was the staff here, the event staff are really legit.
It was a small event. I think with virtual runners and all that, we maybe had 60 participants, something like that.
Yeah.
And once a race goes, there's a lot sitting around and chatting between the volunteers. No one, because everybody just said, this thing's going to be huge. This thing's going to be, we can't wait to come back next year. We don't care if there's 100 next year, 200, but this thing is going to be huge.
Our participants said that too.
And our participants said that. So, we've been in the middle of it, getting it ready to go and doing all of that type of stuff. And you just kind of lose track of that. As a race director, I'm like, come on, man, more people. And my own journey with this was, I think, Gabe, we came to a committee meeting and I just kind of looked at Gabe and I said, I think I'm going to have to let go that this is going to be anything other than this year. And that's okay. And that's what it's supposed to be. Man, did that turn out to be true? I've you know, you could look at something like this and go, oh man, you know, you got, you know, you got 60 people and half of them were virtual. That's an epic failure. And nobody feels that way about it. Nobody feels that way about it.
You know how many people want to do something and do it? I'm not even talking about a race, just anything.
Not many.
Like get up and put your clothes on. You know how many people like just can't do what they want to do? So the fact that we started off and we had several people even said this about another event that we also, you got the first one done, like that is the key. Check.
Yeah.
Success.
Yeah. Well, things don't just come to you. And you know, I won't go on a rant about that today, but holy cats, you know, if you're Steve's a perfect example. Well, maybe one of these days, if I feel like getting off the couch and taking a run, I'll do an ultra. No, you know what? Forget the ultra. Go run today. Go run today. Talk about a guy who couched a 5K out of the water. Holy buckets.
Yeah.
You know, go do it, or anything. You're going to do a race. Or when we first started this, I sat down with these guys and told them what I'd done in the past. And I said, but man, we're out of time to do a race. Listen, here's the beauty of being ignorant. Okay. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but you guys have just never done a race. Like, yeah, let's do it anyway. Like, no, that's a bad idea. And we did it anyway. And, you know, here we are. You know, a guy we didn't talk about is Chris Dalton, the guy who came in, who won the ultra, like
Chris,
5 hours. And talk about a guy who smiled through the whole thing.
He didn't even look like he's out of breath when he finished. He's like, I could have gotten a lot.
You know, I passed the guy that didn't have a bib on, and I asked him like, did you register for this? He's like, no, I'm pacing. I'm like, what do you mean you're pacing? He said, I'm pacing that guy. And Chris was like a mile ahead.
Chris showed up with a pacer?
He had a pacer.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
The second guy to finish was Chris's pacer. So then I drove up to Chris. I was like, hey, man, is that your pacer back there? He's like, yeah, but in order to pace me, he's got to be with me. And he kind of chuckled.
I didn't even realize that happened.
Yeah, dude.
That's crazy.
I'm telling you, he's a strong runner.
Yeah.
Very strong runner. And I didn't know his story at all. You know, I mean, I've been out of the racing community for a few years, but
I think it'd be good to get him on a podcast because he finished it so quickly that nobody really got to talk to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't get to talk to him at the end because he finished. He went over and grabbed a dog tag. He hung out for a little bit and then just left.
Yeah, I sat and talked to him for a little bit, you know, but not much. He
had a beautiful family there.
Beautiful family. Yeah. Him and Eric were kind of the same, you know, caliber. We just had these two guys that were like, okay, let me show you how to do this.
Yeah, exactly.
And boy, I'd be excited to get, you know, 10 of those guys.
Yeah.
And really challenge each other and get that going.
I was able to snag a quick interview with him.
Oh,
so
did? Okay.
There will be a video on Revenant's Facebook page of him eventually, but it would be good to get him on here just to talk more.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Who else we got to talk about here? Let's see. Let's do some times. Eric, let's look at the winners. Eric Smith came in at 3 hours, 46 minutes. This is on a 60+ mile course. 16 miles per hour's average. Jeez. on that deep gravel. Next, second was Jason Wood. This will show you the difference. 13 miles an hour, 4 hours, 42. And Jason is no slouch rider.
Yeah.
You know, so that was a difference. And then the top two, the top runner, Chris, for the male, came in at about 5, and the top runner, Aaron, was second, came in just about an hour behind him. So, you know, strong performances on the 30-mile course and gravel.
Aaron and Terry.
Yeah.
Terry was the one that just ran as far as she could.
Yeah.
We're like, this course is hard. This is a hard course.
Yeah.
So they were.
Yeah. For, I mean, relatively compared to what they run, you know, you're running the Bighorn, you're running the Rut, it's flat. but the gradual falls flats on that course are just brutal.
The first 12 miles was uphill, Russ.
It
First
is, but
12
you know, I
miles.
listen. I ride out Duck Creek all the time, and you don't, because you're kind of heading out on that course, and it's like, dang man, I'm just kind of humping it here, and you don't really realize how much of a climb it is till you turn around and ride back the other way, and you're
Yeah.
like, wee. But yeah, it's just this falls flat that just kind of keeps dragging it out of you, and then when you hit the gravel, you got to climb up on the bench, and then you get up on the bench and you got an inch and a half of gravel you're slogging through.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah.
Chris was the other Chris was the cyclist who broke down.
Yes.
He had great spirits about that. I mean, I know he was frustrated with himself, right? Did you pick him up?
No,
John picked him
John
up.
picked him up?
Yeah.
But he told me like that was his own fault because he took his bicycle out
He was on a mountain
on
bike
a
event.
mountain bike trail, just like hitting some hills real hard. And he's like, people told me, man, that bike can handle some stuff until the next race day. But
all these spokes came loose. That tire was like,
yeah. And we had just passed him. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
We were
Yeah.
driving together.
yeah, he was cruising. He was ready to win the race. But
Yeah.
yeah.
We asked him like, hey man, do you need anything? No. And
away he went.
not much longer or not much later, I bet that's when he broke down.
Yeah.
But he said it was a great event, even despite that fact. So
He called his mom, right? And when I picked her up, she said, my son broke down like an hour ago. He called me and I said, I'm just going to keep running. So she was like, screw you, dude. I just kept running.
that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
So great event, great people, great experience. Just goes to show these things don't have to be huge to be meaningful.
100%.
With that said,
We want it to be huge.
Well, it's good. It's just going to be, I feel like, yeah. It's
yeah, I on that journey, I guess I don't want to lose sight of these stories and the people that come in and help, you know. Here's one thing I know we don't have to worry about next year: a medical team. We have a great medical team. Couple
is
young
that naturopathy or what do you call all the pickle juice and mustard stuff?
You know what? I'm not sure.
yeah,
I know what you
Home remedies.
Yeah.
home remedies. All right, oh man, I'm telling you, when you go to the Rut, the little corner store down there is going to be out of mustard packets. At the store. What's with all the mustard going out the door? We don't want to lose track of the stories, but we do want to grow the event, so we're looking at places and ways to do that. The course will be different next year. The starting point will probably be different next year. I guess it won't be too much of a spoiler, but I think we're gonna make it to the top of the Priors next year, get some elevation gain, get some good views, and you know, there's some spiritual significance to the Prior Mountains that have been around. That the spiritual significance has been around, particularly in the native people around here, for a long time. And it's just a beautiful place to ride. Yeah. We're going to add some distances, not just longer distances, but shorter distances. So I think we'll probably do a traditional 5K and a 10K so that people who want to just come out and support at a shorter distance can do that. We'll do some, you know, we had a 60-mile gravel cycle. You know, we'll do something sub 30 somewhere in the middle there, and then 100, toying with the 200. We'll see how that goes. But you know, we just need people to pay attention to it and understand that it is unique in this part of the country. I mean, there are mountain ultras and mountain bike rides all over the state of Montana. But if you think you're going to come out here in the plains and have a nice, flat, windy run or ride, come on out, give it a try. and you might be surprised at how challenging it is. And you'll be surprised at how beautiful it is.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Cool. I'm looking forward to next year, man. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think that was the biggest. It was fun. Like everyone had a great time. So
sleep was good that night.
oh, sleep was so good.
It was a cowboy half day, 13 hours.
Yeah.
So there we go. I mean, we're going to come out with all those details soon.
Yeah, we'll be out. Yeah, stay tuned. Give us a couple months to put our head on this and kind of get it dialed in. But definitely, I think you can count on a late May, early June run this time, and kind of get at the beginning of the season. And listen, if anybody who's watching this has an opinion, let us know. I mean, drop a comment or whatever. Let us know what you think. And we at the end of the day, we know that the people who come and experience this are, I guess, for lack of a better term, our customers, are the people that we want to support and serve that day. Now, obviously, we're serving a bigger mission, and we hope everybody understands that and sees that. But our that day, we want to create the best event that we can for the people that are coming, so that they come with their friends and they have an experience. It isn't the course or the event itself that makes the experience. It's coming with your family. It's coming with your friends. It's coming with and meeting us, meeting other people on the course. And it's the people who will show up that will make the event.